Hello children, we are still under lesson 4 in which we are doing the realms of the earth, and in the previous classes you have learnt all the 3 realms of the earth, that is lithosphere, hydrosphere and atmosphere. So now we have come to another important features of the earth, and that is landforms. Landforms means what are the different kinds of lands that are found on the surface of the earth, both under the lithosphere and hydrosphere. So children, you must have seen that the land covering the earth is not the same everywhere. At some places you will find that it rises high, while at other places it is flat. And this happened because of weathering and erosion. Weathering and erosion means carrying away of rocks and sand by the forces of nature such as wind and rain, which are constantly reshaping what our planet's surface looks like. So the different features that make up the Earth's surface is called landforms. And there are various landforms which can be broadly grouped under mountains, hills, valleys, plateaus, plains and deserts. Some landforms are formed by the forces that act on the Earth's surface such as water, wind and ice. And some are formed by the process that took place deep inside the earth. So the first landforms that you'll be studying are mountains. Mountains are rocky masses of land that rise higher than the surrounding areas. The height of the mountain is about thousands of meters above the land surface, and mountains have very steep slope and high peaks. The tips of the mountain, that means the pointed end of the mountain, are called peaks. Mountains usually occur in long rows or ranges extending over 100 kilometers. So a long chain or rows of mountain is called a mountain range. The mountain ranges in the north of India is the highest. Asia has the highest mountain peak in the world, that is Mount Everest, in which the height of Mount Everest it is 8,848 meters above the sea level, and Mount Everest is located in the Himalayas in Nepal. Some mountains are formed when two land masses push against each other. Mountains are formed, and they are called fold mountains. Some mountains are also formed when molten rock from deep inside the earth rises up to the surface, forming a volcano. The Himalayas, the Rockies in North America, and the Alps in Europe are young fold mountains. Why they are called young mountains? Because they have a pointed peak at the top, where the top of the mountains are pointed. So mountains which have a pointed peak, they are called young mountains. Whereas the Aravalli in Rajasthan, that is in India, is an example of old mountain. Why it is called old mountain? Because they are low in height and have a rounded top, where the top of the mountain are not pointed but they are round. So mountains which have a rounded top, they are called old mountains. So the Aravalli is one example of old fold mountains. It has gentle slope and low altitude due to weathering. Weathering means carrying away of rock and sand by the forces of nature such as wind and rain over time. So life in the mountain is very, very difficult because of hard and rocky terrain land. It is difficult to construct road or lay railway lines in such areas. Moreover, the climate in mountains is also very cold as it remained covered with snow throughout the year. So very few people live in mountain regions. Another landforms is hills. Hills are an area of land that is higher than a plain, but not as high as a mountain. It has sloping side. Small fields are found which serve as a good pasture for grazing of animals. That means for feeding of animals. Valleys. The lowland between hills or mountains is called a valley. As you can see here in this picture, these lowlands which are surrounded by mountains or hills on both sides, they are called valleys. Valleys are normally found by glaciers or rivers wearing away rocks on mountains. A number of valleys have rivers flowing through them. The famous valleys in India are Kashmir Valley and Brahmaputra Valley. Plateaus. A large area of land that is higher than the surrounding are more or less flat at the top, and it is known as plateau. It is also known as a tableland, as a physical formation appears like a table, because at the top it looks like a table. It is flat at the top and it looks like a table, so that's why it is known as a tableland. The Deccan Plateau in South India covers almost the entire Indian peninsula. So this portion here, it is the Deccan Plateau which covers the entire Indian peninsula. The Tibetan Plateau in the Himalayas is the highest and largest plateau in the world, and it is also known as the roof of the world. So you have to remember this, that the Tibetan Plateau, it is known as the roof of the world, and it is the highest and the largest plateau. Some of the plateaus are Colorado Plateau and Columbia Plateau in USA. Low plateaus are very good for farming, whereas high plateaus are good for livestock grazing. And many high plateaus are barren like a desert. So life in the plateau is almost similar to mountain regions, where it is very difficult to live. As such, these areas are also not much populated. Plains. Plains are flat and vast stretches of opened grassland. Rivers flowing from the mountains bring fertile soil to the plains. Plains are found inland and along the coast. Inland plains are very good for agricultural purposes, and coastal plains are located along the seacoast, and many of these are popular tourist spots. Plains are also rich in forests and farmlands. The northern plains of India and the prairies of USA produce large amount of wheat and other grains. Due to the fertility of the soil, plains are therefore the most thickly populated area in the world, and the construction of transport network is easy in the plains. Desert. Deserts are very dry areas of land. There is very little or no rainfall, and very few plants grow in the desert. Deserts are of two types, hot or cold desert. The Thar Desert in India is a hot desert, whereas the Gobi Desert in Mongolia and China are an example of cold desert. Desert can also have a rocky surface as well as a sandy surface. The Tibetan Plateau has a rocky surface, and the Thar Desert has a sandy surface. In a desert, an oasis is found. An oasis is an isolated area of vegetation which is generally close to a water source. An oasis is also a habitat, that means a place for living, not only for animals but also for humans. And caravans traveling in desert always stop over at an oasis to get food and water supply. The Sahara Desert in North Africa is the world's biggest desert in the world, and the Atacama Desert in South America is the driest desert in the world. So children, we have finished with all the different landforms of the earth. So we'll stop here for today, and in the next class we will learn about some more special terms which is under the hydrosphere. So thank you children, and have a good day.